I started coaching one-on-one, like not with a whole bunch of people, just like reaching out. Hey, dude, this is working for me. And a friend of mine made a call and saved my life, so I'm calling you. And that's how it started.
Yeah.
I created a support group for firefighters in San Diego that still meets every Wednesday at 9:30 in La Jolla. Like, in 2018, I started that group and they're still meeting. It's just powerful, man. Like coaching is powerful.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Sharp Performance Heroes Journey podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. We're grateful for your time. Today we have Jared Cheselske here today with us, one of our performance coaches that prior to getting into this space was an Army veteran and then transitioned over to a life in the fire service there as a firefighter. Welcome, Jared.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here, man. It's good to see you, brother.
You too. We got to spend a lot of time last week together and really got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah, it was a good time hanging out up in San Francisco with you. Just want to kind of spend this time hearing your story, give you an opportunity to kind of share it. I've gotten an opportunity to hear it, and it's a very powerful story. It's a great motivator for me. I think other people will find tremendous benefit from it. I just want to kind of start off at the top. You went into a life of service from the beginning.
I did.
And I would like to hear a little bit about, what shaped you into wanting to go on this path.
First thing is I come from a long line of veterans. My grandfathers, my stepfather and my biological father, my brother, my uncle, and myself. And then even past all the way back as far as I can trace my family lineage is we just come from a warrior class.
That's awesome. So it's almost like it was in your DNA this whole time, huh?
Kind of. Yeah. I grew up in a military household too. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Okay, so you're very aware of it from the very beginning.
Yeah, really aware of it. And I grew up in San Diego, and my dad was in the Navy. Well, my biological father was a corpsman, served in Vietnam. And my mom and, right, I knew you'd like that. My mom and him separated early on, I believe in like 1971, just shortly after I was born in 1970. And then it was just my mom and I cruising. My grandfather was in the Navy at the time still, and we lived with them for a minute. And then my mom moved out, grew up in a little beach town called Pacific Beach for the first few years of my life. And then my mom married my stepdad. And he was at the time a submariner with the Navy. He had come back from Vietnam, went to A school, became an electrician after Vietnam, and then was assigned to submarines.
I know that it sounds cool to hear about you growing up with all these service members, but I bet it could have been tough at times too. Was it a bit rigid?
Oh, very. Yeah, absolutely. They all came from the old school military, all enlisted, all came up very hard. It was like you're seen but not heard. But if you're not heard, you're kind of not seen either. Mm-hmm. And so we grew up in that household, and it was tough. My dad obviously had issues from Vietnam, and so did my biological father, and that's really the reason why my mother left him, is because he was a very violent man. And then she married a guy who was kind of doing what we all do, is stuff things down, and over time those emotions came out. And he then went on to become a Navy diver and was deploying a lot with the Deep Submersion Rescue Vehicle, was part of the special operations community at the time. So he was in and out of the house, and when he was home, he was not always that happy. And so I kind of grew up really quick and had to take care of my stepbrother, who was his biological son, chores, all the things. And if they're not up to the standard, you got it.
Yeah, can only imagine. Were you the oldest?
I was the oldest. Yeah, I don't have any biological siblings, but my mother adopted my brother when he was 10, and my father adopted me when I was 12. Okay. So in that mixed family. And then along the way, there was another kid that came into play. He was a Native American kid. He kind of came to us as like a trial, like, hey, we're going to take these kids from the reservation, put them in a house and help them get educated. Well, he stuck around for a long time, for almost about 10 years. Wow. And so I considered him my brother, right? We lived, eat, and breathe all in the same room. We lived in a 10 by 10 bedroom in a tiny little house in San Diego. And my dad, being the submariner that he was, tore out the closet and put bunk beds in. And so like my one brother slept on the floor, I slept right in the middle, and my other brother slept above. So we had triple bunk beds.
Good old coffin racks, huh?
Oh yeah. And he even, I think just being his military career, actually got some of those little fold down claw things that you use to climb in and out. And we had 2 of them bolted so my younger brother could get up in the top bunk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just put the beds in the regular bedroom? Like, wouldn't there be more space?
Right. It was so small. Imagine, 3 teenage boys sleeping in this room. I'm telling you, was 10 by 10. It was very small. We had a desk in there. My dad had built cubbies, basically like wall locker size. Like, we each had a foot locker and all our clothes had to be folded exactly. Like, it was pretty regimented. And then anything out of the ordinary, we'd get a whooping for.
Wow.
When the whoopings weren't working, then he resorted to push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups. And that's how we were disciplined as kids. Lots of hard physical labor and a lot of physical activity.
Sounds like it could be a lot, but I also can understand that when you're young, you're a bit resilient and you probably just do what you got to do to get by. I'm sure there's some good memories sprinkled in there with it. But what I also am curious about is that, coming into such a structured home and living in that environment, how are you when you were away from the home?
Yeah, I was out of control, bro.
Yeah. That was my suspicions.
Yeah, I was, to say the least, a wild child. Because you have to express yourself somewhere. And I just wanted to be at the ocean. I wanted to play sports. I played soccer pretty adamant up until the time I discovered football. And that was a thing for me. I just lived, eat, and breathed playing football. Working out was a big time part of my middle teenage years and stuff. And I look back on it, and there was a lot of years I did hold a lot of resentment because I didn't think I had like the childhood that my other friends were having because of all the work and regiment. But man, my parents did a really good job of teaching me like really solid work ethic. I can outwork anybody that I've ever worked with. Maybe not you guys, but you guys all come from the same kind of breed, right? A high like loyalty, high patriotism, just protecting. Like, I protected my little brothers and I protected the kids in the neighborhood. Like, those were really, really instilled in me as a child. And I couldn't thank my parents enough for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you for being able to look back at a difficult time, and it sounds like you glean the pearls of wisdom from it.
Absolutely.
And I can hear the gratitude in your voice.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good for you. I know that's healing in itself sometimes, just seeing things the way they are and being grateful for it.
Yep, absolutely. And it really helped me become a better person too. Like, once I realized that and realized that, like, you know what, as dysregulated as they were looking back, they were doing the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
Right. And as soon as I was mature enough to recognize that, it's like, okay, here we go. Let's go.
It's such a crazy realization when you realize your parents are growing up as you're growing up.
Right.
That they're just humans trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then they had you.
Right.
And you get to witness that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not always the prettiest, right?
No.
Awesome. So how are you as a student in school?
Absolutely terrible.
Okay, fair enough.
I was a product of special education, full transparency. I was in special education from the time I was in 2nd grade all the way through. I did 2-year stint in 8th grade, which I think really helped me be physically tough because there was a lot of bullying and picking, and I was at the same school when everybody was in 9th grade. I was doing 8th grade again, so I got in a lot of fights. I went to an academy. I just had a little disconnect with reading, right, and looking at organization and numbers. And so I went to actually a special school for about 1.5 years. That really helped me with that, at least enough to get me to manage and get me graduated high school. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it dyslexia?
Oh, I have, dyslexia, all the things, check all the boxes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can only imagine how much you kind of had to endure there. And I imagine it made you pretty resilient in that, navigating that process as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned from that process?
Patience with myself.
Yeah.
Even though at the time I didn't really realize it. I didn't really realize it at the time. But I later kind of leaned into that, especially as I share later, when I really dove into like reading about what was going on in my mind, what was happening with myself, diving into literature. I really had to lean into that. Like, okay, it's just that. You can do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was like a catalyst for introspection for you too, and self like discovery to try and learn about the condition and learn about yourself.
Right.
And once you kind of were able to put words to what you were experiencing, how did that affect you?
That finding language to express how I was feeling was very healing. It helped other people understand. Later in life, my wife, friends in the military, friends in the fire department, once I found people I could trust with and I started having language to share, it was really beneficial.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing out the language piece, because a lot of us that grow up like that have those things going on in our mind, we don't know the language on how to express it, which the language for me was violence and acting out.
Yeah, that vocabulary piece is difficult. Sometimes you have to be the one to build it.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
have to help people understand. Most of the time that they're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very lonely when you until you figure out that, hey, you're not alone. This is a very lonely place. And I express that to my wife at sometimes. It's like during most of my life, I felt very lonely, but not alone, because I was surrounded by people who loved me, but I still felt lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. As you kind of worked your way through high school, kind of seeing the writing on the wall, I can't imagine if you were like me, I couldn't wait for the day of graduation. I didn't want to spend one extra day in that school process for me personally. You know, at what point did you start transitioning, or what was your game plan when you started to, reach 12th grade and realize that it's going to be time to transition to a new way of life and a new purpose? What did that look like for you, and what was your thought process?
So that kind of started a year before, when all the folks that I'd come up with up until 8th grade graduated and I was still stuck at high school.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I was like, okay, this sucks.
Yeah.
And it's funny, as I was watching TV, and we didn't have a TV in our house until I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Parents didn't believe in it.
Okay.
No TV, no video games, absolutely nothing. And so when we get home, my dad finally bought a TV. I was like watching the TV show, and I saw this commercial of this helicopter flyover and these dudes rappelling out with machine guns, and they're all face painted in camo, and they got in the trees and they're shooting guns. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And even though my dad was Navy, and at the time he was acting as a recruiter, he had gotten stationed to recruiting duty. When I told him I wanted to go in the military, he's like, hey, I can help you become anything you want in the Navy. And I'm like, yeah, I think I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I think I want to go in the Army. And I didn't really know much about Marines at the time, or any Air Force or anything. All I saw was that TV commercial, and we had the ROTC at our school where the guys were always playing with the guns and spinning them around and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, those guys look pretty cool.
Did you ever participate in the JROTC program?
I didn't have the grades to be able. I had enough. I had the 2.0 barely, but I focused all my effort into football and weight training and wrestling.
Awesome. Well, okay. What I'm really curious about that is you said you had this like drive to want to go on your own path, right? You had this, your parent was a recruiter, probably could have gotten you orders to anywhere, probably would have wanted you to be on a nuclear submarine.
Yeah. I think he wanted me to go be a diver.
Oh, really?
He was, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be cool too. Diving is one of the best kept secrets in the Navy. But you get this desire to want to go on your own path.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think drove you that way? And tell me about what that path looked like.
I really wanted just to get out of the environment I was in.
Yeah.
Nobody I knew that was graduating from high school was going in the military. Absolutely. It was kind of like nobody even thought about it. And it's just like when I saw that video, I was just like, and that was in 11th grade when I saw that, and I thought about it. And then the recruiters come to the school and chatted. It just fascinated me. Like, I just wanted to go do that and experience it. But I didn't know, I was nervous about committing, it was a little tough. I'm not going to lie. It was a little tough committing full tilt. But I did the delayed entry program during my, early on in my senior year. And so I waited all year.
Well, good for you.
Did I answer the
taking
question?
That step? Yeah, of course you did. Yeah. Okay. So you decided, you committed. I know that commitment is a big step. It is. That's the worst part about joining the military, is that dep time prior to getting in.
Yeah.
Where it's just full of ideas. They're telling you what all these things you have to prepare, but you don't know what to prepare for.
Yep.
But then you find yourself on that flight. Did you go to boot camp in Georgia?
I did. I went to Fort Benning.
Fort Benning?
Yep.
Tell me about that.
I really felt comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, you're built for it, huh?
Yeah, because I had lived in it.
Yeah.
Most of my childhood and into my teenage years, having somebody stand in my face and scream and yell and spit flying out and, making me do push-ups was like, that's every day. And then I thought to myself, when those guys were doing it, I'm like, well, at least you're not my dad. And so every time I was doing push-ups, it's like, I'm doing it because I want to do it, not because I'm being told, even though technically I was, but I wanted to be there. Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like you maybe for the first time, you felt like you were exactly where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. I felt totally comfortable there, so much that, I just excelled at it. It wasn't a difficult thing for me to do. I know a lot of boot camp and military training is really difficult for a lot of people, but I just dug in. It was awesome. I don't toot this a lot, but I graduated honor graduate from my boot camp and infantry school.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah,
Good for you.
It's pretty awesome. I still every once in a while look back to that piece of paper in my binder, and I still have it.
Yeah, I definitely did not graduate with honor, but I passed.
Yeah, hey, yeah, you did.
Infantry, you made it. Well, good for you, man. Good for you. So it sounds like you take this step, you get away, you're trudging on your own path now, and you're becoming very successful.
Yeah.
At this point, I bet that was a nice transition from your school career and all that you had to endure there, and now you're coming into your own, and they're acknowledging it.
Yeah, it felt really good.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. You moved through that process, honor graded both, and then you go to your first unit. What was that like?
So I had no idea, but when they're reading off, so I went unassigned infantry, which is like, the no to do, but I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know anything about anything really, other than I didn't want to go to the Navy.
Yeah, fair enough.
I probably would have done really good in the Navy because I had spent a lot of time in the ocean. That was my safe place as a kid. I spent a lot of time in the ocean, right, as a young man and as a teenager. And so that I probably would have done well. When they're starting to read off the units, they were reading off units of numbers that I had no idea about at all, like places they were sending folks to that were unassigned also. And when they came to me, they said 101st. I knew exactly what that was because I'd read about it. You know, the video of those guys were the patch that they were wearing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like, okay, let's roll. Yeah. And so I just showed up and everybody was different than boot camp. And yeah, they called me, private and all this stuff. And they were, very direct, but nobody was yelling at me. Nobody was screaming at me. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then took me over to we were at reception for a day or two, and they issued us a bunch of like TA-50 gear is what they called it back then. And it's like all your stuff. And which you guys call kit now. We call it TA-50.
Not going to make any jokes right
Bro, because there was like 50 pieces, dude. I don't know, maybe something like that. And then shuttled us over to the unit, which was Charlie Company, 2nd 327 Infantry, no slack battalion with the 101st Airborne.
Nice. Now, is that Benning as well?
That was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay, cool. So you're still in the South. You're still getting that good old humidity. How was that transition? I didn't ask you about that. You went from sitting on the beach in Southern California to getting in the dirty South. How was that?
In August.
Yeah, how was that?
It was gnarly.
Yeah.
And it was sandy.
Yeah.
And it was dirty and it was hot. And then it got cold and then it got rainy. And by the time I got to Fort Campbell, it was in December and it was cold.
Okay.
I remember wearing my PA jacket. It was cool.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was cold, yeah.
Yeah, cold and wet.
Yep.
Okay. So you make it to that first unit. You made it 101st, that commercial that you saw and you dreamed of and been a motivator probably throughout this whole process. Yeah. And it seems like it's coming to real life, like it's happening. Tell me about that first unit and like, what'd you experience there?
Well, first of all, I got really good roommates, like really good. So we were in barracks at the time and there were 3 to a barrack room in there. And I was on the 3rd floor. I remember. I'm trying to remember the exact building number, but that's 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was I just had really cool guys who just was like, hey, bro, welcome. How are you? Where'd you come from? California. Oh my gosh, like that. Yeah. And I was like, where are you from? They're like, one of the guys is he said he's a white dude, but he's like, I'm from Vietnam. And I go, from Vietnam? And he goes, no, Vietnam. Oh, and I'm like, where's that? And he goes, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I never met somebody from the South before, like from the East Coast. And my other roommate, his name was Brian Castro. He was a hard charger. He had actually had a bad jump during RIP, Ranger Indoctrinational Program, and broke both of his ankles and, drug himself off. And after healing, they sent him to leg unit. And but they were just great. It was good. I had a great company commander. I had a great first sergeant who really just they just wanted to charge hard.
Yeah, so it sounds like you came from a room with 3 people racked and stacked, and then you moved into a barracks with 3 people. Was the room that you moved into in your barracks better or worse than your home bedroom?
It was so much better.
Was it? Fair enough.
I didn't have to share a shower with 5 people because we had a one bedroom house where I grew up, or a 1 bathroom house. And it was cool. Yeah. I had a lot of room. Like, even though we just have our own little space and our bunk and our wall locker and our little desk, I felt like, man, I got my own apartment. This is amazing. And the chow hall's just down I can just walk down and I get a meal in the morning, a meal at night, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think you can, I mean, I did have food at home. That was a blessing, but I could choose. Like, they had a short order line. They had a regular line. It's like, oh, yeah, I can eat whatever I want.
So what year were you here in Fort Campbell?
I was at Fort Campbell from 1989 to 1991.
Okay, so those are some pretty dynamic years for the Army specifically and military.
Yeah.
Did you experience any of the Desert Storm, Desert Shield stuff that went on?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. So Panama happened.
Okay.
Right? And in the end of 89. And so in the spring of 90, early on in the spring, we got a slot to go down to Jungle Operations Training Center, which was at that time located at Fort Sherman, Panama.
Oh, wow.
And so things were still tight, tension, right? And so we were all full, ooh, maybe we're going to go do some. Not. We ended up in the jungle for 21 days during that Jungle Operations Training Center. We did go over to Panama City. We got to cruise over in Humvees and, have our M60s on the roof and kind of look cool for a minute.
Yeah.
And then we just drove around there. And I think we ate some food and then drove back. It was like a 3-hour drive through the jungle, through the mountains. But
sounds like a cool experience.
It was cool.
Was that your first time out of the United States?
Other than Mexico.
Okay.
I'd been surfing in Mexico a few times. But yeah, first real experience without family, without parents.
In the jungle of a foreign country.
Yeah. And it was
with bushmasters and fertilances and jaguars.
Monkeys.
And monkeys. The monkeys will get you.
Yeah.
They'll get you before everything else will, won't
right.
they?
And the thing that was the gnarliest was the plants.
Oh,
so
yeah.
at night, this palm, right, they call it black palm. And to protect its fruit, it would at night throw these spikes out. So if you're doing movement through the night and you touched it, it would go right through your leather glove and jack you up. We had guys that got sidelined because of it.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm. It was bad.
Yeah, the jungle's rough. It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
Yeah.
I loved it though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're sadistic. You're right at home, I bet. Okay, fair enough. So you go through Panama, you go on this first experience out there in the jungle warfare training.
Yep.
Then you come back to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. What's next?
A few field training exercises. I go home on leave. Boom. Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and we got recalled. And within 3 or 4 days after the notification goes out, I'm on an airplane headed over to the Middle East.
You mind sharing a little bit about that experience? We don't have to if you don't want to.
Oh yeah, it was actually a very hard experience, but very educational for me. When we landed, it was if I remember the temperature was 136 degrees. I just remember that number. For some reason, it's stuck in my mind. We got off the plane. And, we're in full everything, carrying all of our stuff. And we get in this formation. I just heard this thump. And then I heard a poof. And I turned around and a guy fell against. Guys were starting to pass out because it was so hot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. And so we just, learned to drink a lot of water, really fast.
Yeah.
And try to stay cool. And over the first month, kind of got accustomed to it. They moved us into an area called Camp Eagle, which at the time was just this big sand lot. And then eventually, I think for the first couple nights, we just slept outside. Mm-hmm. And then they came around this truck and started throwing tents out, and we had to organize them. And we made these big rows of tents. And they were not military green tents. These were Saudi Arabian, white on the outside, colorful print on the inside, bamboo sticks and stuff like that. Yeah. And so we had to put those together, and then after we got that together, they're like, okay, pack your stuff, we're moving out. And we just did rotations up and down and training exercise and stuff up and down the border between Saudi Arabia and Iraq.
Okay.
Yeah, northwestern border.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember my first time in Kuwait. It was so hot that you don't even sweat. It just powders salt on your skin.
Yep.
I realized I was confused about what was happening initially.
Yeah.
Where's all this powder coming from? I thought it was the sand. Then I realized it was just the sweat that evaporated so quickly it left the salt behind.
Yeah, I was really nervous. I think I probably overcompensated on the water because previous in the summer before we deployed, I had a pretty bad heat injury while we were doing a movement, doing a live fire exercise in Fort Campbell. And it took a lot of fluid to get me back. And then I started having a little temperature regulation issues for a bit. So I was really nervous going over, and I didn't have a problem the whole time I was over there at all.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. But it was on my mind.
Yeah, because we all know that the heat casualty equals the silver bullet. No one has time for that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. So tell me about a little bit more how that trip kind of panned out, or where you going with that?
Before we even knew, we got moved up to a helicopter and refueling and re-ammo base. And it was just staged. There was nothing really going on there. And we were doing our rotation of security, and they had a huge ammo facility, and we were guarding it, right? And then on January 16th, I think that's the date of 1991, a whole group of Apache helicopters came in hot, landed, refueled. Everybody, we could tell like there was some elevation, right? We could tell there was some energy in the air. And then they took off. And then one of my buddies, him and I were on watch that night. It was probably like 2 a.m. And he's like, bro, the stars are moving. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so we just looked up, and what was happening was all the bombers going over the stars, like going under the stars, and the stars were disappearing and reappearing. And we're like, whoa, something's going down, right? And then in the distance, we could start hearing and light start flashing and stuff like that. And I'm like, holy cow, something's going down. And then shortly after, we get our platoon leader coming around. Guys, the air war's underway. They're doing this thing. They're going to bomb the crud out of everything. And then helicopters just kept flying in, leaving, coming back, flying. And it got pretty busy. Yep. Oh,
yeah. I can only imagine the rush as a young soldier, just kind of feeling the gravity of what's happening.
Yeah, I was like, well, when do we get our turn?
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, I'm prepared for this day. Let's go.
Did you get your turn?
We did. Yeah. So then from there, we were there for a few days. The dates are a little foggy. I remember the big ones, but like how long we were there, it's been a long time. We moved up kind of more north on the border, and then we staged just inside Iraq, a whole battalion. I think our whole brigade actually was staged up there. And then we were doing little patrols, kind of in and out, just doing foot patrols, basically for security, stuff like that. And then every once in a while, one of the patrols would come back. So I was like, yeah, we saw some stuff, and they called in fire, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, come on, I'm gonna get my turn, right? I want to do this thing. And on the February 23rd, we got operations order in the afternoon that we're going to go invade Iraq, that we were going to go in on a massive air assault. We were going to do 2 lands, 2 hops, and then into Baghdad, right? So we were going to establish a couple of forward operating bases. I believe Cobra and Viper at the time was what they were called. And we did that. So on the morning of February 24th of 1991, we loaded up at I believe like 4 o'clock in the morning and headed across the Iraqi border. And first stop we did, landed down and set up big security zone. And a few hours later, trucks and stuff started piling in. They started setting up an FOB, is what they call it at the time, a forward operating base. And then we did that the next morning again, got in helicopters. We leapfrogged for 2 days, and then we stayed. And then on the morning of February the 28th, we got our operations order. We were going into Baghdad. We got our orders. We were headed into the city. And we could see it. We could see him prepping it. It was pretty amazing, the fireworks and all the stuff going down. And we were, ammoed up, everything, got in helicopters, headed that direction. And right as we were getting close, we just banked. I'm like, what's going on here? And that was it. They we had two little hops, and then boom, they set us down, got quiet. They put us on security. And then a few hours later, they're like, ceasefire's called. We're not going into Baghdad. We're done. Ground war's over. And that was it. That was it.
How'd you react to that?
It was a mixed emotions, right? Because they had prepared us for the worst. We all had body bags. We had never been issued body bags before, Yeah. And we all had a lot of body bags, right? They were expecting heavy casualties. That's what so all the emotions that go with that, but also the feeling of, hey, I'm trained, I'm invincible, I'm fit, I'm ready for this, let's go. In a way, I'm not going to lie, I felt let down. Like, I was kind of like, this is a bummer, but then on the other hand, after it set in for a day, I was like, we got to go home. And our deployment was tough, not as like combat tough, but like we slept on the ground, like, and that desert ground is hard. We had to dig through it, right, to get under. We had sandstorms with no protection, with no bunkers, just laying on the ground and sandstorms coming in and, digging your buddy out of their foxhole, their little fighting hole to find them. And you're in there like, I'm good. It was tough like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No communication. So we didn't have any communication then, like letters home. You'd write a letter and then may hear something back like a week or a month later.
That anticipation part can be the worst part, where you're just waiting for something to happen, and it can feel like a lifetime that you're waiting just for anything.
But we trained a lot though too, like leading up to it. Yeah, and we trained a lot. And then we still kept physically, like doing physical fitness, even though we stayed another month after, we really poured into like fitness.
Okay. Good for you guys for staying, keeping your mind sharp and keeping your mind busy while you're out there. So as you kind of digress from theater, you make your way back to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. What's the future looking like for you in the Army there?
Yeah. So when I got back, I was a little educated on some stuff on what I might want to do in the military. And so talked to my first sergeant about doing some cool stuff. And he got me in touch with the on-base recruiter. And we were talking about it. And he's like, well, to get here, you got to do this, this, and this. And it was like, go to Korea for a year, which is the last thing I wanted to do after already being gone for 8.5 months living on the ground, because I had heard stories about how rough Korea was. And I was just kind of like really, well, maybe I want to try going home. Let me ground myself a little bit. Let me try going home and see what happens. And so that's what I did. As my enlistment came up, my end of service date came up. I signed out, packed my truck, and 36 hours later drove from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to San Diego, California.
Oh, man.
On Diet Coke and closed cigarettes.
The good old days before all the monsters and everything else, right?
Yep.
Well, good for you. So you transition out, you make it back to sunny Southern California.
Yep.
What's this transitional phase look like for you?
A lot of surfing, a lot of working construction. And one of my friends had gotten into the fire service, and I reconnected with an old friend who we were super good friends in high school. My current wife, Patty, we've been married for 29 years. We started hanging out a little bit, and not dating or anything, just hanging out, friends. But my friend Nick Johnson, he was a good friend of mine since I was about 6 years old. He had gotten himself into the EMS business while I was overseas. And it just intrigued me because one is he was cool, he's wearing a uniform, but he was surfing all the time too. And I was like, bro, how do you do that? He's like, oh man, I work 48 hours on and I'm off for 4 days. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Yeah. What do I need to do? He's like, come come check out the fire station. And so I did. I went out there. I did a ride along with him. And I was like, yeah, dude, this is it. This is where I want to go. And that was it.
So you found this new occupation, this new career that allows you to do the things that you love the most, like be in the ocean, wear a uniform, still be of service. Tell me about that. When did you take that plunge? Who'd you start working with?
I told Patty, I think I want to be a firefighter. And I told all my friends and family, and they're like, yeah, good luck. I don't think there was a lot of like, it was more like, okay, nobody had ever been in the fire service in my family, so they didn't really know anything. When I was hanging out with them, I really felt like connected at the station. When I was even with his guys for that 8-hour ride along, I was like, I'm part of something. Yeah. And it really made me feel good. And that's what really kind of fueled me, right? So I go through the fire academy. I applied. They had a fire academy for that little department that he was working for in like East County, San Diego. We managed all the Indian reservation fire stations. And I graduated their academy, and they offered me a job. And so between working on a hand crew and working on the brush engine and on the engine sometimes, I started my career. Yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. Good for you for making it. And like finding this new thing. Must have been a little bit odd though to find yourself in another selection going through that process.
Yep.
Did you find it particularly easier since you'd already been through boot camp and stuff, or was it still equally challenging?
The fire academy is pretty easy. I just had to learn some new skills.
Okay.
Right? I just learned how to roll hose, how to throw hose, how to load it on the fire engine, how to get in and off the fire engine, how to use different tools. I was pretty handy with hand tools already. So just learning, learning how to use a chainsaw instead of machine gun this is a very easy transition for me. I didn't think it was very difficult. I graduated with an outstanding leadership award in that class. I was an academy leader. And then, so I was about 3 years, and then I wanted more. And so I was testing all over the western part of the United States. And I happened to get hired a job offer in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wow.
And packed up and rolled up there, and it was great. I loved it. I was working in a big city on a ladder truck, doing what I really wanted to do, mastering the craft. And then I wanted more. Like, okay, I want to challenge myself more. I want to go to a bigger place. I want to go home. I want to go back to Southern California. I want to go surfing. Yeah. Skiing was awesome. I loved it. It was absolutely great. But my wife at the time, now we're married, and we have a little baby, Gabby, my first daughter. And we kind of had that itch to go back home. And so back to San Diego. I'm not going to lie, the third fire academy was more physically challenging for me. My body was pretty beat up already by then. I'm 31 years old. Okay. And hop into it like full tilt and graduate. I didn't have any questions like if I'm going to pass or fail. Like I knew I was going to pass. And so it was just tough. And then probation was a little tougher. Third probation now. Right? Yeah. So I'm kind of a glutton when it comes to stuff like that.
So they didn't cut you any slack.
No.
It's just like it was you're starting over as a new guy at each department that you showed up to.
Yep.
Wow.
Each time I started as a brand new guy, boot, probationary firefighter for a year. I did have some folks along the way, especially guys who were former military, could see that discipline, could see my work ethic, could see how I talked to people and the respect I had for rank and structure. They kind of would give me a little pass and be like, hey, bro, today you're not on probation. You've been there, done that. You're good today. But I would just say, thank you, sir, and go back to work.
Get back to sweeping, huh?
Yeah. Everything was good. Over the years, like the injuries started adding up. Yeah. Like I had a shoulder injury, a knee injury. I had a significant back injury on probation that I used Toradol and occasional booster of morphine to get through. Like it was pretty bad. I wasn't sleeping really well. My nutrition wasn't on. I just wasn't focused on taking care of me. I was taking care of everybody else. In 2012, I lost a good friend in Afghanistan. He was actually a son of a good family friend who I had mentored through since he was about 12. Mentored him through the process. He was actually assigned to the 101st also. He was in the 502nd. And that, like when I look back, Steve, that's when I can really see like, okay, the wheels started to fall off, right? And by 2017, like my wheels they were gone. I was on blocks. Like my motor wasn't running anymore. I wasn't sleeping. My home life was a wreck. I was making terrible decisions financially. I just wasn't in a good place, like at all. So I kind of reached out to psychologists, asked for some help, and I took a little time off work, but I was really struggling. My wife and I were like, my childhood friend and I were like now not talking to each other. And it was very difficult. My kids, they just did I think we hear this a lot, right? Like when we get into that place, when we're checking all those boxes, and I didn't even know about operator syndrome then, but I was hitting all the boxes for sure. Yeah. Right. We caught a fire. A couple kids died in that fire. 2 shifts after, I was really trying to hold it together. I was driving home from work. I was isolating a lot of the time, heavily. And my phone rang. I recognized the number. And at the time, I wasn't taking call. I wasn't talking to anybody, but I recognized the number. It was a friend. His name's Bobby Allen. And him and I went to the first fire academy together way long time, like 22 years before. And I'd gone off and done my Salt Lake stuff and came back. And now we're working as captains at the same station together. Yeah. Right. And so I was like, excuse my language. I was like, I'll answer the phone. And he's like, hey, bro, I need you to pull over. I could tell by the tone of his voice that something was up. I pulled over and he said to me, he's like, hey, dude, we know you're not doing well. Right. we need you to go get help. And like right there, like everything started flashing in front of my eyes, like all the things that I'd put my family through, all the things I'd put my body through. And I just had like an epiphany. It's like, you're right. Like I had a moment of clarity, like where I really could see clear in all the fog that was going on, right? I broke down right there in the Rite Aid parking lot, right there where I'd pulled over. And he stayed on the phone with me. I gathered myself, and I actually drove directly to my primary care doctor. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't want to go to the ER. I wanted to go somewhere where I knew someone, right? And that someone was my doctor. And that's kind of where it started. It was tough. Like putting the pieces back together were really tough. And so, but I started, right? The road was tough. Like I said, I did later go back to therapy and work through some really deep stuff, right? That I really needed to. But a good friend of mine who had really gone through a really difficult time a few years earlier reached out to me, and he said, "Hey dude, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm not good." And he's like, "I want to introduce you to somebody." And so he actually introduced me to a psychologist who actually became a coach of mine, taught me about mindfulness, really dove into meditation, really dove into how are you sleeping? I'm like, I'm not, and that's kind of where it started. And then that was my first introduction to like coaching, like somebody who really just coached me through it. Yeah, we didn't go into like too much of the bad stuff that I'd done or whatever, but like, it's like, hey, this is where you can go from here. And from here, things will get better. And it did. Yeah. The first thing I noticed was like I was starting to sleep again. Yeah. Like, and that really helped my relationship with my family. Everything just kind of saved my career. Right. Yeah. And then I became passionate about it. Right. I just like, well, man, this stuff's working for me. I know a lot of other guys who are hurting right now. And I just became passionate about sharing it. I started coaching one-on-one, like not with a whole bunch of people, just like reaching out. Hey, dude, this is working for me. And a friend of mine made a call and saved my life, so I'm calling you. And that's how it started. Yeah. And I created a support group for firefighters in San Diego that still meets every Wednesday at 9:30 in La Jolla. In 2018, I started that group and they're still meeting. That's powerful, man. Like coaching is powerful.
Yeah, you've been taking care of people your whole life, huh?
Seems like it.
Well,
yeah.
Seems like, as the gravity of your career kind of came to a head, just the wear and tear on your body and everything else that you had to endure day in and day out, it sounds like that fire with those two girls really was the tipping point. Yeah. And then it was just the compassion of your friend that called you to check in on you. Right. Yeah. Sometimes we can't see it in ourselves. Right. Absolutely. Sometimes it's that brother or sister that pulls you aside and advocates for you. Yep. And thank God for those people in our lives. Yep. So it sounds like you were able to start working the path and you started to see changes in your life and you saw things start to repair and you didn't see the resources or have access to what you thought you needed. So you started creating it for others.
I did. I just created it for myself first. Like, to be honest with you, Steve, I started that support group because I needed support. Yeah. It came out of a necessity. And I had been going to one in Orange County. And so I was driving like an hour and a half to go to the support group because I was living in Marietta at the time. And I was driving like an hour and a half once a week to go because there was value there, and talking to my fellow brothers and sisters and listening to their experiences of hope and stuff. So I'm like, man, if this is going to work, like I could do this too. And so we started the support group. And then I was in that room for like 2 or 3 months by myself, bro. And I'd use it as like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal. And then all of a sudden one guy shows up and then we talk. And next thing you know, there's 8 people in that room and we just have mutual respect for one another. We're talking about what we're going through. We're sharing like lessons of hope. And, there was a lot of healing that's come out of that circle for sure.
Well, good for you for creating that. And, I'm kind of curious about this though. That's like to go and create that and sit in that empty room for what was it, weeks, months?
It was like 2 months.
2 months.
Once a week for at least 2 months until the first guy popped in.
Yeah. But it sounds like you felt like something deep down inside of you knew that's where you needed to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And whether it was just for me, like I just needed to be there. It was a safe place. It was quiet and cool. And I could really meditate without any distractions. And it really helped me. Yeah.
Did that shift the way that you showed up at work after that?
100%. Yeah. Before Jared, hard charger, ego, wanted to be at the busiest stations, wanted to go to all the fires, do all the things, still have that desire. But now I came with it with a different set of lenses. I came with it with more compassion for the people we were serving, more compassion for the people who were serving, for my teammates, right? For my crews. The language, we can go back and talk about the language, right? Like I was consuming so much information on how to heal myself that the language was becoming clear to me, and the ability to communicate that, what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. I could express that in language without acting out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So very similar to the story, like you trying to figure out navigating the educational space. Once you put a vocabulary to what you were feeling there, it allowed you to not be kind of driven by those emotions,
right,
or victim to the emotions. You're able to label them more effectively. And you say that made you more grounded as a leader?
You did.
Yeah.
100%.
Nice.
And I started being more attuned of people suffering. I've lost a lot of friends on the fire department to suicide, right? That little boy that came and lived with us for 10 years died of drug and alcohol. Like he's just addicted, and it eventually took his life. But I understand it. Like I can make sense of that, right? Because I've been in that pain. Like I've been in that hole before. And so it just helps me have a little more compassion for that.
Yeah.
And for the people that we're serving. Because a lot of the people that firefighters and police officers serve are people that are in that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The suicide rates, amongst the military, fire, and law enforcement are astronomical.
Yep.
And once, that's something I've got to experience and learn since working with this demographic, is just seeing how much real life they experience day in and day out.
Right.
All the loss, all the trauma.
Yeah.
Everything. It's a heavy job to endure.
Yeah.
And, thank you for your service in that space as well, to do that and show up. We all, depend on you when we call 911 to be there. I'm grateful we have people like you to show up. As you started to navigate through this mental health challenge and you're starting to get a grip on it, you're putting a vocabulary to it. Right. I can only imagine how much that's kind of expanding out with everywhere you're at and where you're working.
Right.
And you start approaching towards retirement. How do you continue to find that purpose, and what did that transition look like, and what are you into these days?
So thank you for that question. The retirement kind of came on the horizon about 5 years ago. And I knew it was coming, right? And I'm doing all the things that I need to do to stay healthy and helping others. And a mutual friend, like a year ago, now it's really coming. So I had a couple of surgeries over the last couple of years. I had a knee replacement and a shoulder replacement. So I knew that like my time riding on Big Red was pretty much done. Like, it's not conducive to my physical health anymore, right? And so I started to have to look at what's that new chapter looking like, right? And so I've been working with some nonprofits over the last couple of years and really diving into service. I read this really cool book. It's called From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks, that really kind of put it into perspective on what retirement should look like, right? Retirement shouldn't look like, for us anyway, we're done working, we're done serving, and now what do, right? We don't have a purpose anymore. And so I dove into like really discovering like my why, like what's my service, why am I so drawn to service? And so about a year ago, I was introduced to Andrew Sackmar, who's the co-founder of Sharp Performance, by a friend, Sarah Mayo, and her husband, Mike, and said, hey, this guy's like doing this thing that you're doing already, but he's reaching a lot of people. And I had this desire, like I wanted to reach more people, right? And share my story and help them navigate through their story more than anything. Because I had navigated through mine, right? And I knew how painful that was to travel that alone at some times. And so, excuse me, it's very sacred to my heart, the work we're doing. And Andrew and I got on the phone. I was actually sitting on the curb talking to Andrew, and we were chatting, and we had talked about our old military days and stuff. And he's like, oh, I said I was in the, 101st. And he's like, oh yeah, what battalion? I was like, I was in 2nd Battalion, Charlie Company, 2nd 327. He goes, I was in Alpha Company, 2nd Battalion. He's like, no slack. I was like, no slack. We're like yelling on the phone to each other. It was pretty freaking awesome, man. And we just clicked, right? I understood what he was doing. And it was more than just like building a company. He was building a purpose, right? A need, like there's a need, right? And there's a difference between building a company, you know, and building a need, right? And providing a needed service. And I felt that instantly. I did all the things I needed to do. I met you, you know, Brendan and some other guys and Max. Well, can I share with you my first experience with the team house?
Sure.
I hold you guys a pretty high esteem and think we've had that conversation before, right? Sometimes I feel a little intimidated. I'm working through that. But I show up at the team house for the very first time and I go up there and there's like these TVs. In my mind, exactly what a CIA safe house looked like or like somebody operating somewhere would look like with the monitors. And I saw this, what now is a red light pointer, but it looked like a pistol sitting on the table. And I'm like, yeah, these guys are legit. And so now that was my first experience with that. And, but I was all in, man, from the moment. And, I started coaching. I got a few clients and it was slow at first. And now I work with, my clients are some of the most dynamic people, right, that I've ever met with unique interests and lives. But the story is the same. And I think that's really common, right? And so the platform that we're building at Sharp is really relevant using the operator syndrome framework, right? Not to put a label on it, not to put a stigma to it, right? But to do the opposite of educate our folks. Hey, like what you and Andrew are saying in rollouts, which something new for me is I really enjoy doing that, coming on the educational team and going out and meeting the people face to face and really showing like what a good platform and product that we're bringing to you.
Well, we're very happy and honored to have you, Jared. You've been a tremendous add to the team, however this universe works, where you met Sarah Mayo and made it to the team house and got to see the antics of the team house to coming onto our team and then becoming a speaker for our organization and showing up and representing in such a powerful way. I just want to tell you thank you. And I'm very convinced you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Your whole life's driven you down this path of a servant, and you've just self-sacrificed and had to find yourself and rebuild yourself and come out of those ashes. And it's not missed by me how much your heart led, and you really have a dedication to your brothers and sisters in the fire service and humanity as a whole. I often hear about you taking trips down to Hawaii and things like that. You can't stop talking about Hawaii. Do you mind sharing with us a little bit about why you find yourself in Kauai every time I turn around?
Again, when I see a need, I like to help out and address it, especially if it's something that I can provide. And so a mutual friend of mine introduced me to the founder of the Keala Foundation, which is an organization that helps build the resilience of the youth of Kauai and of Hawaii. And they do it through a couple of different ways. They do it through fitness and mentoring. And they also have early intervention programs where they help kids that might be dibbling with some bad stuff, help them come out of that and really see the light, sober them up. And I was really attracted to that, right? To that servant mindset to bolster the youth. And so he invited me to come out to Kauai in 2018 to kind of just see what the program was about. And you know how people say, oh, when you come out here, you can stay with me. A lot of people say that. And me and my family were on Maui on a vacation. And I'm like, babe, I don't want to go home. I feel like I need to go to Kauai and check out what this dude's all about. She's like, knock yourself out. So I called Aaron and I says, hey, mind if I come over to Kauai and see what you're doing over there? And he goes, what time does your airplane land? You can stay with me. And I stayed with him for a week. He just showed me what it was all about. And he told me about this Ultimate Hawaiian Trail Run they do every year. It's like this big thing. And I had heard about it before because it's kind of big in the CrossFit space. And I was doing CrossFit for a lot of years and stuff. I'm like, okay, tell me more. And he took me up to the mountain. We went hiking. And it's like, bro, has anybody ever gotten hurt doing this? He goes, I don't know. I go, what's your safety plan? He goes, our plan is no plan.
That's the plan, I guess.
And so I'm like, let me serve you. Let me help you with the safety, so you don't have to worry about any of the people coming over here. And I just recruited a bunch of firefighters. And my good friend Chuck Osterhout, who's been with me over there so many times, he's my like number one guy. And he's like, I'm all in too, let's do it. And so we built this amazing safety team for the Keala Foundation. And that's how I met Sarah, is I was doing CrossFit at Invictus years ago, met her, but she was working for Keala at the time.
Wow.
And then she also has her nonprofit on Oahu. And so Chuck and I went over there, helped her last year do the pentathlon. We helped with the safety over there too. And so I feel like I need to serve and give away all the skills and blessings that I've had in my life. Like, they're not mine. They were given to me. So I need to give them away, right?
Yeah. Give
them back. So, yeah, that's my fascination with Hawaii.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
We just did a bomb monster thing too. We did the 65-mile hike around the island and then paddled 37 miles in outrigger canoe.
Oh, God.
In 4 days. It was, yeah.
All with kids, right?
Yeah, we had 24 kids that started and finished. Every one of the kids that started finished, from 11-year-old to 17. We had a couple adults tap out, right?
Yeah.
And but the kids did the whole thing.
Awesome. I love hearing about that. That's so important. You know, the youth, you know, I think, you know, both of us could see ourselves in those kids on that hike.
Yep.
Really understand the need and how uniquely challenging it can be to be a kid that's maybe just underprivileged in a lot of ways.
Right.
And have some, you know, instrumental men and adults come up and show them a different way in life.
Yeah.
Good for you for doing that. And thank you for doing that. You know, as we kind of come near the end here and start wrapping up, you know, I just want to ask a little bit of your perspective when it comes to being a coach. You know, there might be somebody out there right now, like kind of listening and thinking about it. And maybe a lot of your story resonates with their life and they're not too sure about how to take that first step. And I would just ask you, Jared, like if you had any advice for that person that's maybe thinking about that, what advice would you give them?
To do it. Right? Make the call, book the session, reach out to a friend, whatever that case is, because you're not traveling alone, right? We feel like it at the time, but at any given point in all time of history, there's been somebody traveling the same road, just in a different location than you are. And so don't get stuck in the past. It's like an anchor, right? It is like an anchor. I look back on the self that held a lot of resentment to the way I grew up as a kid, and how many years it kind of held me back in that with the relationship with my parents. I have a great relationship with my parents now, like deep, deep love and relationship, but it wasn't always like that, right? But I had to make the decision like, hey, they were doing the best they could with what they had, right? And so once I cut that chain, that anchor, where I was pretty easy to move forward. Yeah. So I think that's the advice. It's just to do it. Just pick up the phone, right? Text somebody, call somebody, right? Share your story. Tell it to a random stranger, right?
Yeah, brother. There's something so powerful about that forgiveness process.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think it's for the other person, but I really think it's for us.
I 100%, it's about when you forgive, you give it to them, right? And you release it from yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
To unbind those chains. Yeah. Thank you, Jared. Thank you so much for this time. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you so much for being a part of this team and being a part of this movement.
Thanks, Steve. I truly appreciate our friendship, and I look forward to what we got in the future going.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for everyone for tuning in.